to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
Sarsour's supporters maintain the word causing fierce backlash has been taken out of context, and that she's also been fighting back, tweeting, "Right wing tries to demonize my leadership. Editing videos is their favorite pastime." Here now, Ben Shapiro is editor-in-chief of DailyWire.com, and Hassan Shibli is chief executive director of CARE Florida, a friend of Ms. Sarsour's, and was president when she made the comment. So, Hassan, let me start with you. Tell me how it was taken out of context.
Well, jihad means to struggle for good, and she was very clear that it's our duty as Americans and as Muslims to put forward our best effort and to struggle to speak truth to power, to help the disenfranchised, to stand for the oppressed, no matter what the cost is of speaking out. And she's actually paying the price of speaking out and calling out the Trump administration's attacks on minorities, attacks against women. Linda's a revolutionary American Muslim, proud, hijab-sporting activist, and we stand with her. We're proud of the tremendous work she's doing to stand with all disenfranchised minorities to make America great by standing for justice and speaking truth to power, which is exactly what jihad is about.
Okay, so I first read about this on the Daily Wire, but when you wrote about it, Ben, tell me why you think that it was not taken out of context when she calls for jihad against the White House.
Well, I mean, it clearly wasn't taken out of context. Everybody I know who posted this story posted the entire video as well as a large portion of the transcript from what she said. I don't think anybody is claiming that she openly called for violence against President Trump, but jihad means more than just internal struggle or quote-unquote struggle for good. I mean, we all know that there are terrorists all over the world who invoke the word jihad as justification for what they do, and Linda Sarsour knows that too. I mean, she knows how to make a headline. She is a radical anti-Semite who has backed terrorists in the past. She's a person who has said that I am her
smearing her. Don't smear a woman who's not here to defend herself. You just don't like a vocal American Muslim woman proudly standing for justice. Don't smear a woman who's not here to defend herself. Shame on you.
Okay, I'll talk about CARE instead. CARE is an organization that was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation.
Right, shift the topic. Exactly. Never indicted. Don't try to drown out the conversation. Let's talk about what jihad means. Jihad means striving for truth.
Let me ask you, Hassan,
exactly what she's doing.
If you want to talk about context, let's talk about the full context.
Yes, go ahead and ask her.
Okay, this is what I want to ask you.
The fact that she began this speech by praising a guy who has in the past talked about how jihad includes violent jihad. She started her speech with that. So let's not pretend that you can just, you're the one taking this one line out of context and then suggesting that it only refers to
I encourage everybody just to listen to the speech for herself.
So I listened to it, and I have a question to you from a communication standpoint. So she wants to be an effective activist. Surely she is aware that when the general public hears the word jihad, it's not necessarily about an internal struggle and standing up for people's rights. I mean, we do that all the time in America, like our country's actually built on that. So I'm curious why she doesn't think that she would get some backlash. If you're going to say those things, you are going to get, stir up a hornet's nest.
Well, that's why it's so important that she used that word, because we must reclaim that word from the extremists that have misdefined it and misrepresented it. So Muslim extremists and anti-Muslim extremists have both hijacked and distorted jihad to mean something horrible, to mean exactly what jihad does not mean, actually. And the only way we can reclaim our words and reclaim our language is by leaders proudly and unapologetically using it in the right context so we can show the world what jihad really means. Jihad does not mean war, qital, and how it means war.
Whistling past the graveyard, because that's already the reclamation, Ben. It's too late for that.
Of course,
no, it isn't too late. It isn't too late. It isn't too late.
Okay, if it isn't too late, then I'd like to hear CARE come out right now and condemn the Muslim Brotherhood.
Why would we condemn the Muslim Brotherhood? We don't condemn political organizations. Listen, let's not, again, every single time you want to try to distort the conversation. Why don't you condemn the KKK? Why don't you condemn the Lord's Resistance Army? Every time a Muslim comes up, you start condemning. You start asking Muslims to condemn. Muslims are human beings. We're proud Americans. We stand for peace. We stand for justice. We condemn all people. We condemn all people who engage in violence against human beings, against civilians. Take that for granted. We are one humanity, one people. Let's get to know each other. Let's not promote fear and hate of each other.
All right, Hassan, I'll give the last word to you, Ben.
Okay, if you want to reclaim the word jihad, you should start by condemning organizations that promote jihad all over the world instead of associating with them, praising
Why would
them,
we,
and talking about
again, you're misdefining jihad. Jihad means standing for justice. Jihad means standing for justice. It doesn't mean terrorism. And we stand against all terrorists and all those who engage in violence.
Organizations that participate in it. This is not hard.
We have and we do, just as everybody else does. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless America.
I've been advocating for a higher standard of traditional behavior on the part of men literally my entire public career. But that doesn't mean that you get to carve out a section of crimes that don't require evidence. And here at USC, I guess you guys are really screwing this one up. Not only do all the campuses have these Title IX cases, which are just absurd, I mean, just complete failures of due process, but I was reading about this story, you guys over here, from the Price Women and Allies group, where they sent an email about Brett Kavanaugh saying, quote, "We are personally inspired to reiterate the importance of educating and empowering women and allies alike." And then Price School of Public Policy professor James Moore sent an email stating that accusers sometimes lie, which is obviously true. Right? It's funny, Kirsten Power said, well, why can't you name anybody who can lie? Okay, we want to do this case. Tawana Brawley, the UVA rape case, the Duke lacrosse case, there's a football player recently who had his life ruined. He went to jail. I mean, there are cases where women lie, and there are cases where women don't have enough evidence, lots of cases where women don't have enough evidence. We don't actually have final statistics. They give you a range. They say somewhere between the people who say that women never lie say that 2% of cases of rape are lies or are falsified. The actual range from the study I've seen is anywhere from 2% to 10%, and that does not count all of the cases that are brought to the police and the police just don't pursue, in which there's just insufficiency of evidence, which is like 45% of all cases that are brought to the police. In any case, James Moore sent an email saying accusers sometimes lie and arguing that maybe we should wait for due process in sexual assault cases. This was a boo-boo. You are not allowed to say this here. This is a very bad thing. So now people want James Moore fired for saying that sometimes accusers lie. Price grad student Kyla Coates wrote, quote, "As a female student, I feel very uncomfortable that a male professor whom I have never met is trying to interfere with my access to knowledge about my federal rights." He sent an email. He didn't use a spam blocker. Right? What? Okay, and then Moore responded. He said, "If you believe the victim, there's really no point in due process." So naturally, students called for him to be fired. Here's USC Annenberg Media reporting, quote, "Master student Mariana Jordan with USC Price shared how Moore's words are adding to the nation's triggering environment." She said, "Seeing Mr. Moore's email in my inbox was quite upsetting." You know what's more upsetting than seeing an email in your inbox? When someone accuses you of gang rape without any evidence on the floor of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and then suggests in USA Today that you shouldn't be allowed to coach your girls' basketball team anymore, and then suggests that because you're a white man, you're not entitled to due process, and they should really not be angry about it. If you get angry about any of that, it's because you don't have judicial temperament. It turns out it is amazing to watch how the goalposts shifted on Kavanaugh. First it was he doesn't deserve to be on the court because he's conservative, which you knew was coming. Then it turned into, and he's really not even that conservative. He's more of a textualist, frankly. And then it turned into, well, he doesn't deserve to be on the court because of the Blasey Ford allegations. And then there's no corroboration for the allegations. And then it's, he doesn't have the judicial temperament necessary because he got mad when you called him a rapist. Which, I mean, that's just such an unbelievable allegation. It's an incredible allegation. It's like the equivalent. I have a 4.5-year-old daughter and a 2.5-year-old son. It's like my daughter taking my son's hand, slapping him in the face with it a few times, and then going, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying? Why are you so angry?" And he might be angry because you're slapping him in the face with his own hand. It's probably that. Honestly, if I'd been Brett Kavanaugh, like there are very few times in American public life where I wish I were in somebody's shoes for like 5 minutes. I wished that I was in Brett Kavanaugh's shoes for the 5 minutes just to respond to the various senators on that panel. Let me just say for the record that I don't make a habit of cursing publicly. I would never have stopped cursing. You know how it said in his yearbook, something? It would have been like that, except every F would have stood for the exact same word. And they all would have been directed at Dianne Feinstein and Dick Durbin and Cory Potato Head Booker. Okay, other individual rights. The right to life, obviously, is protected by the Constitution of the United States. Under the Fifth Amendment, the right to life is inherent in due process. You cannot be removed of your life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Obviously, the left doesn't care about unborn babies, so we can kill them. But it turns out that the founders probably would have been a little bit upset with the idea of 1 million unborn babies being killed in the womb so that you can feel like you are exercising your bodily liberty. The abortion argument is always such a weird one to me. It's like, oh, get out of my body. Believe me, I have no interest. Get out of my body. Get your hands off my. No, why don't? It's such an odd argument. Like, I've never talked about your esophagus, right? And by the way, the uterus is not the portion of the body that men find the most attractive. Just FYI. So when women are like, "Oh, get your hands off my uterus." When's the last time even a bad dude went for the uterus? Like, the reason that it turns out that lots of people are interested in your uterus is because there's something inside it, another human. And that human begins its life the minute that it is conceived. And make no mistake, this